Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.
Hey everyone, Jim Fitzpatrick. Thanks so much for watching another edition of The Small Business Show, exclusively right here at ASBN.com and now streaming on Roku, Fire TV, and Apple TV. Today, we're discussing the influence of having a strong LinkedIn presence and how to build it. Joining us now is founder of Rise Learning Solutions, Stanford instructor, keynote speaker, and instructor at LinkedIn Learning, Lorraine K. You've seen her here before on our network. Lorraine is a LinkedIn top voice and has more than 300,000 LinkedIn followers. Don't we all want that? So welcome back to the show, Lorraine. So happy you can make it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Jim.
Sure. First of all, why is it important for entrepreneurs to build a LinkedIn presence? I mean, can't I go out and be successful without LinkedIn?
Well, the reason that LinkedIn is so important for entrepreneurs in particular is that LinkedIn really is the modern day online landing page. I like to describe it like that.
That's
So
true.
if you think about, where you look when you want to learn about someone, rarely do we try to, search for their website or their company page first. LinkedIn is really that first place that we all look, and then it's that starting point, and maybe we go to the website or company page after the fact, but LinkedIn is that online landing page.
Wow.
And there's this really impactful stat I always like to share from the RAIN group that says that 82% of buyers will look at your LinkedIn before replying to prospecting efforts. Now, I know that's a little bit, targeted towards sales, but it's really showing how powerful the platform is in helping others assess your credibility and understand really who you are. It's really not just a place to look for jobs anymore, which is what I think many people normally think of LinkedIn as. It's really a place to grow your visibility, grow your expertise, grow your network, and to bring awareness to yourself as a thought leader and bring awareness to your company as well.
I couldn't agree more. What are the first steps in building your LinkedIn profile? What elements should people focus on?
I would say the first thing is to focus on optimizing your profile first. So I really see the profile as kind of that foundational piece. And similar to a newspaper, the first half is going to be what people look at first. So you want to make sure that top half of your profile is really, really strong. So you're going to want to have a great profile picture that both exudes credibility and warmth. You're going to want a complete headline that goes beyond just your job title, and you want to include keywords that relate to your business. And then you want to have a really strong background cover photo. So those are the three kind of essential elements that I always suggest that people target first.
What are some of the don't do's? Like make sure you don't do this. Don't have a profile picture of you in your bathing suit at the beach, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think now, with remote work, like it's okay to show a little bit more of your personality, but you still want to keep it professional. So it can be a little bit more casual, like you don't have to be in a business suit, for example, but you still want to, it's your professional impression. So
Sure.
Keep that in mind.
Anything else that jumps out of the don't do's?
I would say I think people are steering away from sharing too much personal content on LinkedIn. So I think there was some feedback that, LinkedIn is not Facebook. So people were very open to sharing kind of behind the scenes. I think people are taking a little bit of a step back now and keeping it a little bit more professional.
Sure. And what about people that get on there with either their religious beliefs or maybe something that's political? That always, to me, I'm scratching my head saying, do people really want to do this? Aren't they? Is that really the place for this? But I know that a lot of people are very passionate about those two things.
Yeah, I don't really think so. There are arguments that say, we want to bring your whole professional self to work, so maybe you bring these things up. But I think, it's okay to bring up, I guess, if you are, making sure that you are having a discussion and not just kind of pushing and shouting your beliefs. But I mean, even in personal life, like I try to avoid those topics because people get so fired up about it, and bringing it to your professional space, it just feels like a recipe for disaster to me personally.
I agree. I'll see some things on people's LinkedIn that I'm just shocked going, oh my gosh, they're right out there with their political strategy and their beliefs and what have you. And I'm thinking to myself, aren't you cutting half of your market right off the table if you happen to support this candidate over that candidate, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's a touchy subject.
Yeah, for sure. Are there any strategies you found that helped you or others build their LinkedIn presence?
Sure. So definitely all the things I shared above are really important. They're also what I like to call kind of non-obvious best LinkedIn practices, but can really up-level your LinkedIn presence. For example, LinkedIn added this feature where you can record how to pronounce your name. But instead of just using your or just saying your name, I like to suggest that you give a quick pitch, maybe about your product or your company or something about yourself. Or I talked about the background photo before. So, people sometimes just put an image of their product, for example, but there's a lot of missed opportunity here. So you can add your website, you can add testimonials, show where you've been featured, for example. And lastly, there's also this feature called creator mode. So still kind of under the radar, but if you turn it on your profile, it'll be about a third of the way down. Your profile will actually rearrange itself so that more content heavy and rich media sections will show up higher up. So that way you are making sure that you are kind of making sure that more eye-catching features are available higher up, and there you can include customer testimonials or news coverage or whatever kind of things you want to feature, and people will see it more prominently.
Yeah, that's great. Can you share some challenges you faced in building your LinkedIn presence and how you overcame them?
Yeah, so the big hurdle I see time and time again, and I felt it as well when I started, is feeling comfortable posting. And it's ironic because I worked at LinkedIn for 6 years and I still felt nervous while I was there. But it's a hurdle because it's tied to your professional identity, and people want to make sure they sound smart, and they want people to think highly of them, right? And so I think that perfectionism can be a blocker for a lot of people, and again for myself as well. So it's really important to try to push past that point. So what I'd like to suggest is to first keep the bar really low with expectations when it comes to posting. So people think, oh, I have to be posting 5 days a week, and that's just so overwhelming if you've never done it before. So
Yeah.
I like to say just start posting once a month, very doable. You'll eventually exceed that and then keep growing and growing and coming up with a cadence that works for you. Creating a content calendar is really important. So planning ahead, so you're not sitting at your computer every day thinking, oh my gosh, all these emails and Slacks are coming at me, and now I have to figure out, what exactly I want to post about. So just making sure you plan ahead can help a lot.
Hmm.
Having someone to have ideas to bounce off of. So, getting rid of that perfectionism, like having that other source being like, this is a great idea. Like, I definitely think you should post about it. Having that supportive network goes a long way. And then the last thing I would say that's really powerful is to not underestimate the power of commenting. So people think to create content on LinkedIn, they have to create unique posts, but comments in themselves are a form of content, and comments are a little bit less high pressure because it's still tied to your professional identity, but it's not you just blasting out a new post, right? You're kind of underneath someone else's post providing your insight. So if you're nervous, I like to suggest starting there as well. It's a
That's
really
that,
great way to get your voice out.
that's a
Yeah.
great idea. What about reposting things? For a while I was a reposter. If I saw somebody,
Yeah.
and I liked them, I'm like, oh, I'm going to repost that, whether it be a thought of the day or a particular viewpoint or something like that. Is it okay to repost, or is that frowned upon?
I think reposting is perfectly fine. You'll see when you have the option or when you click repost, you can either just repost as is, or you can repost and add some additional thought. So I would
Right.
always try to say, add at least a few sentences for why you're reposting, what caught your eye. Do you agree with what the person said? Do you disagree? And if so, why? So you always want to be trying to create that conversation on the platform,
Hmm.
again, and find those opportunities to build your presence, to have some of that thought leadership, some of those insights so people can get to know you versus you're just always reposting and no one really knows why you're doing it.
Okay, very good point. What about video on LinkedIn?
Video, I love video. I always try to tell people if they feel comfortable to experiment with video because video is uncomfortable still to a lot of people. So there's
Sure.
less video on the platform. So if you can get comfortable and start posting some videos, I think it goes a long way in helping you stand out in the feed and just also letting people, get to know you a little bit better through your voice, through your face, and all of that.
Sure, sure. And what do you say to that person that says, Lorraine, I've been doing LinkedIn and for the last 30 days, and I haven't gotten any new business from LinkedIn.
It's all about consistency. Yeah. So, 30 days, 1 month, that's great. That's very solid. But think of LinkedIn as a long game, right? So you're building up your audience, you're building up your credibility over time. So I would say just give it a little bit more time and maybe adjust your strategy. Like talk to people who are your ideal client. Ask them to look at your content. Like, is it resonating with them? Is it too salesy? Do you need to provide a little bit more educational, informative content first? So there are things you can do, getting that feedback and make adjustments.
How about questions? Sometimes I'll post a question and
Yeah.
to kind of like take a survey of my followers or what have you. That seems to work quite well. I'll put a question up
Yeah.
there about, here's my question of the day, and lo and behold, I'll get 30 or 40 responses on it.
That's great. Yeah, Jim. I think questions are one of the best practices you can do when posting on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is really, again, it's not just a job site, it's about community, content, conversations. So questions are a really good way to show that you're open to having those conversations. I have had people turn to me and say, "Oh, Lorraine, I didn't know if I should comment on your post because I don't know you yet. I didn't know if you'd think it was weird." And so I always tell people, like, that's why you ask the question, because you're showing you want that conversation. And then the more comments that you get, the higher your post appears in the algorithm, so more people can see it, and then it builds and builds on that.
That's great. How long did it take you rather to build an audience of 300,000 followers?
I think pretty much since I started working at LinkedIn. So I think that was 2013. So it's been a while.
It's been a while. Yeah. It takes a while. So
it takes a while. Yeah. And it's
yes,
that consistency piece. And,
sure,
there was periods where I took time off and, you don't grow as fast, but it's
sure.
really past few years, I think, grown a lot more because I'm posting regularly and engaging with my followers.
Well, it's fantastic. Who doesn't want 300,000 followers? That's fantastic. And this is something, folks, that you really need to take a look at. Even for those of you that say, I don't really do social media. To me, LinkedIn isn't really like social media. This is almost a must-have if you plan on staying in business. I mean, it's essential. And to Lorraine's point, everybody's going to check you out on LinkedIn. Of course, it was like 85 or 82%. I think the other 18% of the people out there are lying about it. I think everybody checks you out on LinkedIn. I know I do. Check out everybody before I do business with them. So this is an area that you definitely want to focus on for 2024. If you're doing it now, do more of it. And if you're not doing it, get into it. So Lorraine, any final thoughts for our viewers today?
I think you summed it up well. I'm just always encouraging people to get on LinkedIn. You do not need to have aspirations to be a content creator or an influencer.
Yeah.
It's really, an extension of your professional identity. And so think of it that way. You want to leave an impression. And so LinkedIn is going to be the place that you do that.
I agree. And you never know where that next opportunity is going to come from, whether you're selling a product or a service, or you may be looking for your next career move. LinkedIn is just the place. I think it's the only place that does that so well and can help you grow your business and your career. So Lorraine K. Lee, founder of Rise Learning Solutions, will show the information on the screen here if you want to get a hold of her. She's also a Stanford instructor for continuing studies, top-rated virtual keynote speaker, and instructor for LinkedIn Learning. That's why she knows so much about LinkedIn and has 300,000 followers. So thank you so much. Hopefully we can have you back on the show, because there's about 6 more questions I have for you.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us for another edition of The Small Business Show with Jim Fitzpatrick, exclusively on ASBN.com.